Hey, it's Cordell of Eating Well with Chef Cordell Consulting, where we teach and feed the healthy way. Your life depends on it. So I'm a big fan of salads, whether it's a fruit salad, vegetable salad. I'm a big fan also of the vinaigrette or dressing that goes on it, and I especially like when there's an added crunch to a salad. So what we're going to do today is show you a couple of quick recipes on two things that I love on salads. One being sweet and spicy walnuts to add as a topping to your salad, and also a lime and cilantro vinaigrette. So for our candied walnuts, what we're going to use is maple syrup. Now maple syrup is very good, especially for type 2 diabetics. It doesn't give you that spike in your blood sugar as sugar would. I'm going to use a little bit of cayenne pepper. We're going to use a little bit of salt and obviously some walnuts. So we're going to toss about a quarter cup of walnuts into our pan here. We got it on a medium heat. And we're just going to let those toast for a minute or so. Alright, so you don't have to add any oil or anything to the pan previously to it. And you don't really have to toast them, but if you do, it does help to bring out more of the flavor of the walnuts. Alright? So as that's going, we're going to get our maple syrup. So you need about maybe, I would say maybe 3 to 4 tablespoons or so of maple syrup. So I want to add this to your pan here. Okay, just a little bit. You want to add a little bit of salt, just a little bit. So if you notice in all your baking recipes, you always see salt, but you never taste it because it comes in very small sizes. So what that is that salt helps to bring out the flavor of everything else that you added to. Okay, so we want to add a little bit of salt, a little bit of cayenne pepper just to give it a little bit of kick. We're going to give this a stir here. And we're going to let this cook for a couple of minutes. It won't take long for this to get done at all. Alright? After that's cooled off and done, we're just going to add that to a plate. You can put it on a sheet tray. You can even line it with parchment paper if you choose to. So while that's going, what we're going to do now is focus on our lime and cilantro vinaigrette. So this recipe calls for a couple of limes. We're going to use some garlic, a couple of cloves of garlic. I like the roasted garlic. We're going to use about a quarter cup or so of cilantro, some cayenne pepper. We're going to use a little bit of mustard, maple syrup, and some salt, okay? All right, so now we're just going to take these off here and let these cool, all right? Those are going to take on that flavor. All right. So moving over here, we're going to take our blender now. Excuse me for 1 second. All right, so we're going to go to our cutting board here, where as always, when you're using a cutting board for anything, one of the first things that you want to do is to make sure that you have a damp towel underneath. So when you put your cutting board on top, your board won't slip. All right, so we're going to take our limes here. It's going to roll them to get some of that juice out of there, to get more of that juice out of there, rather. So we're going to roll it like so on your board, just like this. Now you want to cut them in half, like so. We're going to take our blender top here, put our hand juicer over the top. Please invest in the hand juicer. It's only a couple bucks at the grocery store. I'm not a big fan of gadgets, but this is one thing that's handy to have in the kitchen. I'm going to squeeze this lime juice off here. And this doesn't take long. And this vinaigrette actually goes very well, kind of like an all-purpose vinaigrette. It goes very well on different types of salad. You don't necessarily have to have a meat in it, but this one here in particular does pair well with shrimp and with chicken too. All right, so we got those done here for the most part. All right, and if you want to get some more juice out of these, pop them in the microwave for about 5 or 10 seconds, come back out and squeeze the rest of that juice out. All right, so now we're going to take a couple of cloves of our roasted garlic here. I would say probably about 4 or 5. I like garlic, so I don't mind getting a few more in there. Okay. So we got that. We'll add a little bit of cayenne pepper here for a little spice. Now, of course, you don't have to add the cayenne pepper if you're not a fan of spice. We're going to add our cilantro here. We're going to add some maple syrup to this as well. I'll probably say about a quarter cup of maple syrup. But if you want this exact recipe, feel free to shoot me an email at info@chefcordell.com. That's info@chefcordell.com. All right, so we got that in there. We got that in there. Now we're going to add a little bit of salt. Just a pinch. A pinch. All right. Now, oil and acid do not generally mix. So what you need is something to bring it together or to emulsify it. That's the purpose of the mustard. So mustard is going to help bring that oil and the acid, being the lime juice, together. And you only need a little bit, maybe a teaspoon or so of that. Now before you add the oil, you've created your base here. So you want to blend this base and get a good feel for where you are flavor-wise, all right? All right, after it's got a good blend for about 15 or 20 seconds or so, I'm going to take it. As you can see, it's very thin at this point. Well, you may not be able to see it, but it's very thin at this point. But we're just going to taste it right now, kind of see where we are flavor-wise. Okay, that's actually really good. I'm going to add a little bit more salt here, just a pinch. Now, at this point is where you want to start to add the oil. So we want to add, now with most vinaigrettes, you want to use 3 times the amount of oil that you do acid. All right. So I'm going to add a little bit of oil here. Now when you're making this vinaigrette at home, you want to add the oil in bits. You don't want to add it all at once. You want to give that mustard time to be able to gel with the ingredients as well. All right. So add a little bit of oil here. We're going to put this back on it. All right, now it's starting to become a little bit thicker. Now, if you have a blender at home that has a top to it where you don't have to physically take it off each time, that's perfect for this recipe. You don't have to stop the blender at that point. You would just take off the top to the blender, the little circle thing on top, and slowly pour the oil in that way. But because my blender does not open from the top, I have to stop and add the oil as I go. So I'm going to add a little bit more oil here, and this should be about perfect. So remember, about 3 times or so the amount of oil versus the amount of acid. All right. Now it should be a lot thicker. And it starts to lighten up in color a little bit. So don't be surprised if it lightens up in color. That's perfectly normal, okay? Perfectly normal. Let's taste this one more time to make sure we're at a good point. That is good. That is good. So step your salad game up with this lime and cilantro vinaigrette and these sweet and spicy candied walnuts. You can catch us on Facebook at Eating Well with Chef Cordell Consulting, on Instagram at Chef Cordell, on LinkedIn at Cordell McGarry Eating Well with Chef Cordell Consulting. And as always, you don't have to be a chef to know how to cook. Peace.